We often judge the value of science by the things we build, but there is a different way to measure its impact. Massive physical infrastructure, like detectors and colliders, has given us medical imaging, superconducting engineering, and the World Wide Web. These tools serve an immediate purpose. The utility of these tools is distinct from their conceptual power. Fundamental inquiry forces a reorganization of how we think. Copernicus displaced Earth from the cosmos' center. Darwin placed us inside the continuity of life, and Einstein transformed space and time into relational structures. The deepest power of physics lies in the disciplined dismantling and rebuilding of the grammar we use to perceive reality. Consider the black hole. It is the absolute limit of reality, a region where the bedrock rules of existence are tested. We rely on two highly successful maps of the universe. General relativity describes gravity and planetary orbits. Quantum mechanics maps the microscopic behavior of matter and fields. This diagram illustrates the problem. At the event horizon of a black hole, both theories are required at once, but contradict each other. The math stops working. Faced with this contradiction, physicists practice epistemic humility. They recognize that their map has reached its boundary. Reality is never obligated to become simpler just because a theory fails. Instead, the discipline must expand to become adequate to the mystery. This same structural challenge exists closer to home. Psychiatry encounters exact parallels when mapping the human mind. Looking at the right side of this diagram, we see the mind's own edge conditions: severe trauma, grief, psychosis, and spiritual crisis. These states overwhelm ordinary clinical diagnostics. Historically, when experience exceeds the map, the medical response has been to label the person as broken. The map itself is rarely questioned. Clinicians face a difficult test. They must avoid erasing the patient's lived experience, romanticizing a dangerous crisis, or forcing complex suffering into rigid institutional categories. Like the physicist staring into the singularity, the clinician facing extreme psychological distress must adopt a wider conceptual grammar. Clinical states are not governed by literal black hole physics. Instead, physics provides a disciplined analogy for navigating states where the standard rules collapse. When a person's reality shatters, a coherent new state does not spontaneously appear. Instead, safe reorganization requires specific, active conditions. This graphic displays a formula for conditional emergence. It is a phenomenological grammar, not literal math, mapping how a crisis can turn into transformation. This diagram breaks down the numerator, beginning with G for ground, physical safety, sleep, and relational predictability. Next is reflection, the capacity to make meaning. Beside it is the harmonic coefficient, determining if high-charge states lead to growth or destruction. Attempting to push a system through conflict without these holding variables firmly in place results in destructive fragmentation. The final variable in the numerator is signed difference. This represents high-charge events acting as topological shifts in a person's reality, distinct from everyday stress. This chart maps the Orphic gradient, illustrating a concept called inverse presence. This occurs when a profound absence, a trauma, or a lost future, remains active and field-shaping in the patient's life. But emergence is opposed by the denominator. This diagram illustrates collapse pressure, external forces crushing the individual's ability to heal. These forces include systemic poverty, chronic isolation, and institutional bureaucracies. They actively crush the capacity to metabolize trauma. This requires a total reversal of the standard approach. Before adding new treatments, the clinician must first determine which external pressures must be reduced. As this graphic points out, the isolated brain-in-a-box model is a fallacy. Mental suffering cannot be fully explained by looking solely at biological mechanics inside a single head. This concentric circle diagram details a person-in-field ontology. A human mind emerges dynamically through a continuous web of environments, relationships, and culture. We visualize this processing through the clinical aperture. This clockwork diagram illustrates a person's openness to signals. The master variable is corrigibility, not forced compliance, but the flexibility to safely return to a shared reality after an extreme state. Recognizing the patient as an interconnected field alters the entire objective of care. The goal shifts from suppressing isolated symptoms to restoring a safe connection to the world. Redefine the clinician as a midwife of the mind. They are no longer a mechanic tasked with fixing a broken part. This chart outlines that role. Clinicians secure the conditions that allow a natural process to safely unfold. Forcing structure in a high-charge state is dangerous. The immediate clinical task is to make the edge survivable. Fundamental physics teaches us that the breakdown of a map is an invitation to greater understanding, not a dead end. At the edge of the universe and the edge of the human psyche alike, a breakdown rarely marks the end of coherence. It is the exact threshold where a deeper, more expansive reality begins.